I done a video recently on when you feel like you don't belong, or if you feel like you don't belong, in the circumstances you find yourself in, and the people you're surrounded by, and the things they're doing and everything else, you know, how we can mold ourselves to fit in and everything else. And when stepping away from that, I mentioned how it can lead to time on your own, you know, time with self before the next chapter comes, where you are belonging with the people that you're surrounded by and the circumstances you find yourself in. You kind of find your people, you find your things, and how it's worth staying true in the meantime. But that time with self that I mentioned that it can lead to, and how that's not a negative thing, right? Of course, loneliness and things like that is a very serious thing, and we need people, we need friends, we need to be socializing. It's part of being human. We all want to belong, we all want our sense of being with those that we feel connected with, right? We need that. But when you have time with yourself, right, this is the perfect situation. It's the perfect times to uncover more about yourself. You know, in a couple of these videos, I've mentioned the power in knowing thyself, knowing yourself deeply. You know, when we've got everything going on that we've got going on, all the distractions and so many great things in many ways that keep us busy, there's a lot of that also that keeps us distracted from actually knowing our true self. And a big part of being born in these characters with these characteristic traits that are so unique and yeah, different to each of us, right? A big part of us being here is about learning that, how to navigate it, how to navigate you, who you are, what you really like, your unique gifts, and the goods and the bad, you know, the things that we don't like about ourselves, but also the situations and things that we also thrive in, that we're unique to others. You know, we're born with gifts, and we also develop gifts depending on our weaknesses and strengths and everything else as we go through life, and different scenarios and experiences we have are so unique to us, and we're all viewing it from a different perspective. Yet when you take yourself away, not everyone has this opportunity. You know, life can be full steam ahead and they never actually get that time with self. And this is why I mentioned that it's actually a gift and not a negative if you find yourself in these chapters where you do have a lot of time to yourself, and how to use that time to sit with yourself and uncover, allow what needs to be uncovered. But that's just you getting to know yourself more and more and more, right? Where these things are coming from within yourself that maybe make you feel like you don't belong, or whatever else, even in positive ways. You know, this is a positive thing to uncover not just the negative things about you, but to really get to know yourself, what you want to be doing, the reason behind what you want to do. You know, the times I've had chapters that stemmed over a couple of years for me where I was spending a lot of time on my own, and this was for different reasons, right? It wasn't really a conscious thing, and I made the most of it. It was a very creative time for me. I wasn't lonely in that period of time. I still had the pleasure of having family around me and everything else, but still, you know, the days were spent a lot in solitude, and I didn't quite realize it at the time. I spent it being creative, and also the character growth that I had in that period between leaving some friends through circumstance changed. I moved away, so I was no longer with the friends that I grew up with or was spending time with in my later teens, and I was kind of yet to meet the people that felt like my kind of people who were doing the sort of things, that sort of real friendship, that real brotherhood and sisterhood. Before that had come in as well, right? So I had this time on my own. And I look back on that time and now realise that how vital that was in my character development and me understanding myself more deeply. And this is a never-ending thing, right? As we go through lives, we uncover, we start to know who we are beyond just these physical bodies and our names and everything else, you know, like our blueprint and as I said, the good things and the bad things. But this knowing thyself, right, and the power in actually knowing thyself, this time in solitude or time with yourself, when you do spend it, or you allow enough time for things to come up, for you to actually sit and go through the dark things that can come and the uncomfortable things, and when you're yet to meet your people, or yet to maybe find the things that you enjoy doing, or maybe you're doing the things that you enjoy doing, but that requires some time on your own, or you're in a period of your life where you're doing the thing you enjoy doing, your passions, your projects, your hobbies, but they're very much by yourself because you haven't quite found them people that you want to be doing it with, or the people that you really connect with deeply, right? Knowing thyself, as I said, a huge part of what I think that we're here, a big part of this like mission on Earth in many ways, outside of just having fun and having connections with people and everything else. And we learn along the way. And what do we learn about ourselves? Our perspective, the way we see things, the way we see the world, the way to navigate our characters. And what this can birth, you know, if you actually have this time and go deeply into that, or as deep as you go naturally with it, but that time with self will lead you to knowing yourself more deeply. As long as it's not filled with too much just distraction and hiding away from it, as I said, it's a real opportunity to actually uncover some things about yourself. And that's a positive, no matter how deep or heavy that can feel at times. You're also going to have the bliss that comes with some solitude and everything else, right? Just time with self, because this isn't about times to be lonely. None of us should feel lonely, you know. It's not a good thing. And I like to think that there's people there for you at that point if you are in that. You know, there's always someone there to help. There's always someone there. So that's a deep emotion, you know, loneliness. But if you're kind of comfortable in this time with yourself and recognize that this is just a chapter you're going through and it will come to an end, you know, but you choose that time, or in that time comes you knowing yourself more deeply, the knock-on effect this can have just by knowing yourself more deeply, your character traits, the strengths, the weaknesses, the wounds, the experiences you've had that have led you to where you are today, how they've shaped you, how they've molded you, and how this can all tie into what you actually want to do with your life when you know these things about you, when you've gone a bit more deeply into understanding, right, okay, I'm this way, and I was born with these certain traits, but I've also developed these certain traits, and I kind of like these ones, but these ones I kind of could do with some work for my own benefit. I'd kind of like to work on that and leave that behind, or move away from that part of me and try my best to better that side of me. When we start understanding these things about us, not only do we just grow as characters, we can start painting a picture of what we actually want to do with our lives. You know, by knowing ourselves that deeply, we understand where our gifts are, where our strengths are, what our voice is, what we've got to say, what we've got to do. And this can all tie into what projects you run, what businesses you set up, what jobs maybe you should be going for that align with you being completely yourself, your true self. You're going to uncover those things that really spark passion, that spark love in you. And it can be going deep into your journey, your path so far, that uncovers all this stuff. And yeah, it might be uncomfortable at times, but what you come out of the other end of it, of these chapters of time with self and knowing yourself more deeply and coming out knowing yourself more, spark some wonderful things when you can actually start using it, and it'll give you direction for the things that are probably actually in alignment with what maybe suits your character and suits you to be doing. And as I said, this can actually start pulling you in directions or showing you directions that you can go in work, business, relationships, hobbies, passion projects, all these things, right? We can think that we know ourselves, yet we're in a job that doesn't suit. Sometimes that's needed for a certain chapter, right? Or we're in relationships that don't suit our true self. We haven't kind of found our passion projects and our hobbies that keep our mind in a good place and spark passion in us and joy in us. When you start uncovering all these ways that you'd like to express yourself, and that can be as subtle, that can be extravagant, but whatever it is to you, right? And this can start molding and putting you on the right path that's in alignment with your character that only you know. Not only will you keep up to date with that in the next days and weeks and years that follow, how these different scenarios or experiences or people you meet mold you and shape you. You'll be very aware when you get pulled in a different direction or have a moment of clarity that changes your perspective on things or your mindset on things, because you're connected to self. You've had that time to uncover where you are and what's made you who you are today, the journey that's been so far. So of course you're going to be aware when another pivotal moment happens, another pivotal character comes into your life, or one conversation it can be, one experience it can be that really has an impact. You're going to be aware of them because you know that it's a big part of your story. And it's like the next piece in that story that you've already sat with and uncovered. We do just take our lives one step at a time and one stride. We just take it all in our stride, is what I mean, right? Without a lot of the time that reflection. And I'm tying this into time with self because it's perfect for reflection. It's a perfect opportunity to actually uncover some things. And I think it happens naturally. It's not something you have to force, but when you have more time on yourself with little distractions or less people demanding your time, these things come up. We can sort of piece in the puzzle of things a bit more and understand ourselves more. And the positive of this, as I said, is just knowing yourself more, knowing what you're working with alone is huge. And then using that for actually what direction you want to go into life, that's going to actually bring you fulfillment, that's going to be in alignment with who you are, what you are, your message, your voice, the things that really get you going in a positive way. And I talk about this stuff in the program that I'm doing, in the program that I'm running. It's also, if you might have noticed in the description, I've got my weekly newsletter. If you're interested in this sort of thing, sign up for that. I've got a lot of things coming that tap into all these things that ultimately lead us to living more of a fulfilled life, and the different aspects of ourselves that are needed in many ways for a fulfilled life. You know, so many of us are flying in one particular field, right? We're flying in one particular avenue of our life. It could be work, it could be friendships, or it could be your hobby, but yet you're yet to make money from it, or all these sort of things. Yet it's rare that we've got these fundamental foundations that are in balance, that all lead us to a fulfilling life. Because flying in one area without that balance in the other fundamentals of your life and foundations of your life, without having those balanced, it's rare you're going to find fulfillment, because you're going to be lacking in these areas that are just as important as business or socializing or friendship. You know, you can be very happy in your social circles, yet feel like you're not quite doing and giving enough for your own soul, for your own being of you've got more to give. You know, you can be thriving in work, yet completely out of balance with the actual things that are in alignment with what you're here to do. And this is what I dive into in the program. You know, and the whole aim is to help you live a more fulfilling and successful life by having these strong foundations in balance. But time with self is a huge part of that. Knowing yourself, knowing thyself is a huge part of that. You know, the ancient Greeks, that know thyself, had that in it was like their ancient call to a fulfilling life. You know, when you know yourself, and many spiritual gurus and masters and all these different things, they highlight how who are we beyond these bodies. You know, and do we get to that? This is where you could say that our life paths are very much about that. You know, that's what we actually take with us at the end of it, rather than the riches and the fame and everything else that you can strive for. You know, so whilst we've got all these distractions in life, you can turn on the TV, you can watch endless videos, get more and more information, and go to the bars and the pubs. And these are all great things, right? As long as you're in balance and they're fueling you in a positive way. But it means, because we've got all these things that we can be doing all the time, that we don't actually often reflect and sit with ourselves and uncover these areas of ourselves, just because we just take it all in our stride. Yet we have walked this path that's completely unique to us. And knowing thyself, having time on yourself, with yourself, will highlight so much, and can lead you to having more answers on what you should do with your time. That's going to really bring you fulfillment and kind of leave something behind that you're proud of, your message. You can help a lot of people this way, leave a lot of things for people to admire. You can really leave an impression when you sort of know you're doing what's in alignment with your gifts and your message that is 100% unique to you. So to uncover that uniqueness, that authenticity, does require knowing yourself, knowing what that is. What is that thing that makes you unique? To start using that to share, and to live a life that uses it all, that's going to bring you ultimately more fulfillment, right? It's in alignment with who you actually are, and you will know who you actually are once you have that time with self, however long that may be. And as I said at the start and in the other video, these are all just chapters. It's rare that without that time to yourself and uncovering what makes you who you are, the people will come if you want them to. The right opportunities will come that are in alignment with yourself. and you'll know who those people are, or what those opportunities are when they're right for you, when you know who you are, what you want. And that can all stem from actually reflecting when you're on your own. So use time. If you've got time by yourself, or you're noticing that you're in a chapter of time with self, use it. Connect with yourself and uncover these things that make you who you are. And that will bring clarity on how you can live authentically, that then can lead to you having some strong foundations and some direction in where to take your life with your free will, knowing these things about yourself, and what's fully in alignment with your character, your strengths, your weaknesses, your wounds, your message here on earth. But more importantly, you'll know yourself more deeply, which is a gift in itself, and something that I think's rare these days because of how much distraction we've got, how much things we have got to be doing. There's always something you can fill your time with, yet still people get bored. Yet there's probably never been more things you can distract yourself with, and people are still bored. It's crazy. If you're having time on your own, uncover these things. Allow the time to uncover these things. Know that the solitude isn't forever. The more you know yourself, the more you're going to recognize the things that are actually come on your path that are for your best interest, and they're in alignment with who you actually are. Knowing these things can lead you to living a fulfilling life. This is a certain chapter you can be grateful for. It's a time you can be grateful for to uncover this part of you, because I don't think many get that opportunity. So if you're in that, make the most of it and see it for what it is, and you'll come out feeling more confident. You'll come out feeling more fulfilled in knowing, having clarity, who you are, what you can be doing, what you'd like to be doing, where your passions are, where your gifts are, where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, who you'd like to be surrounded by, where you'd like to be. All these things come from knowing ourselves more deeply. And we think we know ourselves. We've lived in these bodies for however long you've been alive. Yet have you had that time to reflect? And long enough for the stuff to come up? And if you have, or if you haven't, but you feel like you know yourself deeply and exactly what you want, then you should know the things that you can be doing to give yourself strong foundations, and also what direction to live in to be living a fulfilling life that's in alignment with that place of truth and love, that would tick all the boxes for who you actually are, not moulding yourself to other people or another job or everything else, right? This is really is a real gift. It's a real gift. As I said, the newsletter's live below. If you'd like to get a weekly newsletter from me, and please get in touch. My Instagram's down below as well if you'd like to send me a message of have a call with me maybe to discuss how you can join the program. Get in touch, reach out if this sparks something in you. And in the meantime, if you're having time on your own, embrace it and allow it to bring up what it needs to bring up. Reflect, get to know yourself more deeply. It's only a positive thing, and will show you at the very least what you can be working on, what you can improve on. It's going to allow you to go in the direction you want to go in a life that's fully in alignment. Peace.